Jeff, did you watch wrestling
Ian,
this week?
I did. I watched
Hmm.
wrestling, but I have to tell you, the wrestling in my head this week was vastly superior to wrestling on television
Yeah.
because I've spent
Okay.
like pretty much every waking moment this week fantasy booking Jinder Mahal's road to WrestleMania.
So is this before or after Raw?
It was after Raw, though I think it's
After
always
Raw.
been
Okay.
there. It's always
It's
been in
always
there.
been there. Yeah. It's always been like the thought in the back of your head. What
Yeah.
will Jinder Mahal do at
What's
his next
Jinder doing?
WrestleMania?
What's Jinder doing right now? Yeah, no. I booked like several scenarios as well and different ways they could play into it and like talked myself out of a couple. Yeah, no, I
Oh, okay.
spent most of the last 7 days thinking about Jinder Mahal.
Okay. Well, that's, hey, great. A lot of
Mhm.
people have been thinking way more about Jinder Mahal in the last few days, or in the last 2 weeks than they
Mhm.
have in a very, very long time.
And it's so weird too because
Hmm.
yes, he did his thing with The Rock and it was very
Yeah.
funny and we were all like, "Oh, Rock, you ruined Jinder's big night." That was the only response that I saw to that anyways.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Uh But then you're like, okay, well, I guess Jinder's gonna go back onto the main event shelf where he resides currently.
Mhm.
But no, he got a huge boost from the most unlikely of sources,
Yes, yes,
Tony
Tony
Khan.
Khan. Tony Khan decided to make Jinder Mahal a sympathetic figure. So for those, well, something in my room just broke. But
Hmm.
for those unaware, um, after Jinder Mahal and Seth Rollins had their little thing on Raw, it was
Mhm.
announced that next week Jinder Mahal is going to challenge Seth for the World Heavyweight Championship. Tony Khan, who apparently thinks title shots should only be handed out to people who deserve it, decided to take out of all the ridiculous title shots that have been granted in AEW. Tony Khan decided, hey, this is one thing where like I can look down upon others for. Decided that because Jinder Mahal hasn't won a match in several years,
Hmm.
since I believe, Obama was the president.
Oh, the Halcyon days. Yeah. No, yeah, Tony, like, I think the man was born without a sense of irony because it is the only way that I can explain him, the guy who makes the matches
Mhm.
and who gives what was his name that has had like 10 title shots but hasn't won a match in forever.
AR Fox.
Yeah,
AR
AR
Fox had
Fox.
like 9 title shots
Yeah,
before he ever won a match.
and just kind of like moves his pieces around to make title matches like a game of memory.
Mhm.
Um, is mad that people aren't angrier that Jinder Mahal is getting a title shot without having won a bunch of matches. And I'm just like, first of all, you're going to open that door. Second of all, you're mad. The internet is mad that Hook is getting a Samoa Joe match.
I don't even
Like,
know if I've heard anyone upset about that,
I
though.
didn't hear anyone upset about
I
that.
have
Like,
heard nobody upset about Hook versus Samoa Joe. The only people I've heard from about Hook and Samoa Joe are people who are excited about it.
yeah,
Like,
he
like
thinks
I,
that's a
I
great
am. I'm
idea.
looking. I think
Yeah.
that'll be a great match. Joe and Hook, they wrestle similar. There's the Taz connection because in TNA, Taz managed Samoa Joe and stuff like that.
Mhm.
There's all kinds of reasons to be excited about that. So I don't know who Tony Khan is listening to, for feedback.
I
But
fear he's not listening to anyone. That's what I
so
fear.
So his complaint was that he's been getting negative feedback about Hook versus Samoa Joe. Hook has only lost one match in his career. He's like 28-1.
Mhm.
Whereas Jinder Mahal hasn't won a match
His
in
is
the
much
in the
worse.
last year.
Yes.
So I actually like I'm happy that Tony Khan is thinking about these kinds of
Hmm.
things, about how to give out title shots and when it's appropriate and when it's not.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some growth happening there, but I think very obviously it was a case of like you're not one to talk. Because my
Yeah.
my biggest gripe with AEW is that title shots are just handed out because people ask for them.
Just randomly. Yeah.
Just hey. So Tony Khan puts out this tweet saying like, whatever, like Jinder Mahal's getting a title shot. which just caused everyone, like all the WWE supporters who are kind of tribalistic against AEW, and I'm not like, obviously it goes the other way too.
Yeah.
But those guys were like, all of a sudden, Jinder Mahal's their favorite wrestler. So it's like, what? No, we all unite behind Jinder Mahal.
In a way, perhaps he
He-
was trying to say that would put some butts in the seats.
Kind of. Yeah, I actually thought about that too. The comparison to Tony Khan
Mhm.
hindering Jinder and Tony Schiavone back in the day,
Yep.
making fun of Mick Foley winning the WWE title, saying that'll put some butts in the seats, and then everybody changed the channel to watch Mick Foley win the world championship. So maybe, let's see how the ratings do for this Seth Rollins versus Jinder Mahal match next week. If that quarter hour does really well, hey man, Jinder, all right, Jinder's got some momentum, and he's got
smoke.
Tony Khan to thank for him. So,
oh man, and you know that Tony just like had his phone out, like, oh, this is gonna be so good.
everybody is gonna love me for
they
this.
are just gonna nail
I am gonna be so popular. Everyone's just gonna be high fiving me and telling me I'm awesome and giving me energy drinks that I don't need.
And someone at his day job was like, Tony, what are you doing? He's like, nothing.
The other thing, okay, so like I can do a headcanon to make sense of Jinder Mahal getting a title shot, because you can kind of say, hey, if you're an ex-world champion, and you haven't had a shot at a certain belt held by a certain champion, you can say, hey, give me a title shot. So I can kind of,
whether you like it or not.
Yeah,
he's still a historical champion, so
so
makes sense.
I can kind of make it make sense in my head. Like, would it make more sense if Jinder Mahal like was winning matches for weeks leading up to him facing Seth Rollins?
Sure.
Yes, but they did the
look.
cute
You got to
little...
strike while the Jinder's hot. Okay,
you got to strike while the Jinder's hot. That Rock segment with Jinder put a big spotlight on him that hasn't happened for years. Why not pay it off as quick as you can and throw him in there against Seth Rollins next time? So
the headcanon that I have for making it seem appropriate that Jinder Mahal has a title shot is that it's a pretend sport and we can do whatever we want.
Well, yes, it is a pretend sport, but
however,
to kind of make it so that people don't have to suspend their disbelief to any large degree, you should try and keep it within the framework of how an actual sport would operate. Then again, if you've been following the UFC and MMA, people talk themselves into title shots all the time. People get title shots because they have a large social media following. So the real version of this sport is not exactly on the up and up either. So, hey.
And also, like, you know me, I'm a Jinder homer, but it is highly unlikely that he is going to win this match. So let him have it. Tony, let him have fun with it. And you know what? Everyone was probably like, oh, Jinder versus Seth. Okay, yeah, I guess I'll check that. And then Tony did what he did. And they were like, well, now I have to see Jinder versus Seth because they're going to do something big.
Obviously, Jinder is not going to win the championship.
No, he wins it in a triple threat at WrestleMania, according to mine.
But according to your booking?
Fantasy booking, yeah.
But what I really want to see happen on Monday is, obviously he's not going to win, but I want there to be a near fall where everyone buys in. Like everyone thinks, oh my God, I can't believe it. Jinder Mahal is about to be the champion again, only for like Seth to kick out right at the last minute. Just for that split second where everyone starts to imagine life with Jinder Mahal as the champion again. It's like, wow, we're going back to 20.
I can't believe that. It wasn't bad.
Fine. No, Jinder was fine, but plus, like, he was the WWE champion. Somebody else was the world champion at the time.
Roman,
so probably Roman.
I just assume Roman. It makes sense, but yeah. So yeah, the Great Jinder Mahal comeback tour, I'm all for. And you know what? I say, like, push him to the top. in my head canon, I'll spoiler alert. You know, there's a triple threat: CM Punk and Seth Rollins and Jinder for the title, and Jinder's just there to eat the pin, so
Mhm.
you can protect the other two and make them look stalwart. But you know, Jinder could eat that pin and land securely in the mid card. Maybe have a nice run with Gunther over that Intercontinental title he refuses to relinquish. You know, maybe he goes for a U.S. title run. Hell, maybe he finds a partner and they get the tag titles or something. Like you could do something with Ginger's
Mhm.
not bad. Just let's let's be blunt about it. A lot of people don't like him because they're racist.
Well,
And
you
you
know,
know, I don't deny that that exists. So let's stick it down their throats. Let's make racists afraid to watch wrestling again.
let's make racists afraid again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a good attitude for all of society, not just wrestling fans. But
Especially in
it's only
racism.
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
So okay, so I think the silver lining with well, actually, you don't need a silver lining. This is all awesome. Jinder Mahal's back
Mm.
in the thing, but the silver lining maybe for AEW is that because Tony said what he said about Jinder getting a title
Mhm.
shot in an undeserved way, I'm hoping that lights a fire in Tony to say, "Oh crap." Now I'm going to get a lot of negative comments if I don't make sure that every title shot makes sense. So maybe every title shot in AEW will start to make sense.